Did you know you can buy silver at spot price? Get your 10-ounce bar of silver at spot price today. Go to sdbullion.com/RP. Not only will you be buying silver without any premium, you'll also be supporting the independent media. Reluctant Preppers gets a small commission when you take advantage of this special offer, going to sdbullion.com/RP. That's sdbullion.com/RP.
As a responsible person with growing concerns for your privacy and personal liberty, you want to know where we're headed and what you can do about it. We ask the experts what you need to do to take prudent and responsible action to safeguard your family's wealth and well-being, and what basic first steps will help you to be aware and prepared. ReluctantPreppers.com.
Welcome back, Reluctant Preppers. We're pleased to have a first-time guest tonight. I'd like to introduce Kenneth Ameduri. He is an entrepreneur and chief editor of Crush the Street. He studies the markets. He's here with us to talk about trends of what is wrong with our current banking system and what are some possible remedies so people can take care of both protecting themselves from undue risk as well as taking part in unprecedented growth opportunities. Kenneth, thank you for joining us here again, Reluctant Preppers.
Done again. Thanks for having me on the show. Really appreciate it.
If you could to kick us off by talking about what are the problems that you're seeing, and we've certainly had a lot of guests on our channel talking about unprecedented and historic risk and growth and overreach of central banking. But if you could talk to us first about problems that you're seeing in the central banking paradigm and why that's leading to a crisis.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, and you certainly do have a lot of great guests on the show, so I hope to do you some justice today. So thanks for having me on. I just read a headline on Zero Hedge, and it said, forget FOMO, 90% of stocks have never been more expensive. And we know that central banks are heavily involved in our system right now, and so many of the things we've become used to and see as normal are not normal. It's anti-free market. And the free market is something that is very natural. The free market is like a river that flows down a mountain, and the government is constantly trying to put up stones and roadblocks in that river. And the way the government is ran now, it's essentially like they're trying to push that river back up the mountain. And things like gold and crypto-currencies is akin to the water going around those roadblocks. And it's free markets that are going to answer to all this manipulation. From 2011 to 2016, it is said that global central banks printed $7 trillion. In just the first half of this year, we have printed $1.5 trillion, on track to printing $3 trillion in just 2017 alone. So we're really ramping up this whole system in terms of keeping this artificial economy, global economy together. And when it comes to something like the stock market, we are 8.5 years into this bull market, and we're hitting all-time highs after all-time highs. And quite frankly, the best time to get in the stock market was in 2009. Back then, there was real price discrepancies between value and what the stocks were trading at. And now with the way they've combated that propaganda average, I know Andy Hoffman uses that, the Dow Jones propaganda
That's
average.
Right.
Central banks are firing on all cylinders. And you know what? The fact is it's really supported by just a few stocks. When it comes to many of the stocks that are going up, it's really just these tech stocks, these Facebook, Google, Amazon, and Netflix. And we can't be sustained by these tech stocks for long. And quite frankly, when we do see a reversal in the tech sector, we can see the flow go into real assets. And to a large degree, we're already seeing that.
You mentioned these few leaders that are dominating the average. We saw that back in the .com bubble more than a decade and a half ago, where it was again these few. It was Amazon, eBay, Microsoft, and Dell that were like leading the entire average, and people kept quoting that look how high the stock market is, but the foot soldiers were retreating. A lot of the smaller companies were just stumbling and staggering and not making good earnings, and these few darlings, these favorites of the market watchers kept pulling forward. And you're saying the same thing. If the same dynamic is what's happening on the internals of the market that doesn't show when you only watch the average, it really doesn't. It does sound like it's hearkening back to a time that was shortly before a major collapse. If you could talk to us a little bit now about money itself, what direction is money headed? And can you talk to us? You mentioned about the debt that has underlaid the fiat currency, but what is going on with the money supply and with the future of money, both in the U.S. and globally?
Well, we know that there's just been massive money printing since the '08 crisis. What the balance sheet went from 800 billion to 4 trillion, over 4 trillion here. And this is just unsustainable. And it's quite interesting. I'll touch on Bitcoin right here just for a second. And that is, Bitcoin was birthed out of the bellies of the 2008 financial crisis. Satoshi Nakamoto issued and published the white paper in October of 2008. That was following the Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers, that while the markets were in this utter panic, he publishes this new money, and it's birthed out of the belly of the worst financial crisis, or one of the worst financial crises that we've ever seen. And I think that's really indicative of where money is going. And I'm not going to bash gold and silver. I love gold and silver, and I think that they are going to do absolutely great. In fact, I recently said that gold and silver right now, buying it right now is like a Bitcoin $200 moment. They're really in that stealth mode phase, that stealth accumulation before they go into that massive upswing that bubbles, every bubble has. One day gold and silver will be in a bubble too, but I think we're far from that. In fact, I think we're in a stealth phase. And Bitcoin is already moving in that direction, and people are getting that relief of being able to put their money into something that is outside the current banking system. And in 2013, if you remember, Cyprus was going through their major collapse with the bail-ins and the bank freezes and all the monetary controls. And that just happened to coincide with the first move that we saw in Bitcoin when it went over 1,000. And people were very happy to be able to move their money, even if it was just to put their money into this cryptocurrency, walk it across the border, and then take it right out. It served an amazing purpose. And the more artificial our markets and governments get, the more people are going to look for alternatives. And man, humans are resilient. Humans are innovative. And when you put humans up against the wall, they come up with things that otherwise, no one would have thought of. And if you've heard of Gordon Moore and Moore's Law, he's had this phenomenon where every 1.5 years or so, 1 to 2 years, technology will continue to double and also be cut in half in terms of price. And we're seeing that. And I actually believe that the blockchain is going to continue that trend. This is a whole new frontier that no one even had a clue that would have existed. It's like the patent guy in 1899 or whatever that wanted to shut down the patent office because there was nothing left to discover. And boom, the greatest decade of inventions, was the 1900s, and then now going to be the 21st century here. But so just so many changes. I don't even remember what your first question was. About
which way you see money heading, and what direction you see the money markets moving.
Sure. So when it comes to money, I also think gold and silver. I said gold is going to be, or is a Bitcoin $200 moment. And there's going to be a real implosion because the physical markets are highly, highly manipulated by the paper price. And it's very rare that the paper price dictates the physical market, but in the precious metal sector, that's what we have. The LBMA trades 1.5 million tons of gold each year, about 6,500 tons a day, making it the largest over-the-counter market of gold in the world. And the COMEX trades, 180,000 tons a year? And that's a lot smaller than the LBMA. But again, that number is equal to the amount of gold that's ever been mined, traded on one exchange. And the inevitable implosion is coming. And banks are doing whatever they can to keep the lid on real money. But just like I use that example of the water flowing down the mountain, there's only so much you can do to keep gravity from doing its thing. And eventually we're just going to have this buildup, this dam of water that unleashes. And I think precious metals and cryptocurrency are going to be the benefactors of this monetary shift that's happening. And really no fiat currency is going to be safe.
When you talk about cryptocurrencies, most people's mind who've heard of them and who've thought about them goes to BitCoin, which it tries to present itself as a non-banking, non-centralized currency. But there are other cryptocurrencies that are more than just currencies. Could you broaden our view out a bit and talk to us about the blockchain applications of blockchain technology beyond currency, beyond just between two buyer and a seller on a particular transaction? What else can the blockchain potentially be applied to going forward?
Sure. Well, you've heard of this this ICO situation now, where all these cryptocurrencies companies are actually using them to raise money for their companies. And a lot of this is actually a scam. I just wanted to put this out there. People are issuing their own essentially tokens, raising money for their underlying company, which a lot of them have no connection to the actual token at all. It's almost like a marketing scheme to promote their company and their token. People end up with a token that has no connection to the company. But that's still in the monetary aspect of what's happening in the cryptocurrency space. But we're seeing a situation now where cryptocurrency or the blockchain can be used for real life ledger record keeping. I mean, we could see even governments starting to use this for marriage licenses and for houses to record title, cars, pink slips, this decentralized system that records transactions. I mean, I've read stuff that says that we might be able to get rid of a lot of people that work at banks even because all the personnel it takes to keep track of all the transactions in a centralized place. But if we had a blockchain that handled that for us, you wouldn't need a fraction of that many people. So really, there's so many applications to the blockchain. And again, it's a separation of the blockchain as something that keeps track of details than what we are used to now, because all the blockchains that we deal with, we can speculate in. And I believe that's a big part of money because, obviously Bitcoin has many aspects which people love and are very much characteristic of money, like limited in supply, 21 million Bitcoins, and the fact that it's divisible and you can transact with it, and all these different things, and the fact that people can trust it. It's decentralized. The whole issue that we have with fiat money is that it's centralized, and we can't trust the underlying governments because the underlying governments are reckless and have 100% horrible track record going back to the beginning of time. And that's what the beauty of cryptocurrency is it's of the people, it's free market, and it's very natural, and that's something that I really love. And so there's going to be the monetary component, but there's just a whole new frontier of things that will be applied on the blockchain, and really more than I can even conceive. because there's people out there doing things in the blockchain world that we have no idea what the world is going to be like in 5 years, because again, every 1.5 years, technology is doubling. And it's happening at a pace much quicker than we've ever seen before. And that's a reason for people to be in front of the trends, because there's no time like now where people can get completely washed away by technology if you're not careful.
Are there specific cryptocurrencies that you're favoring from your research, and do you have resources that people can go to learn more about that? This is so new to most people.
Well, absolutely. I actually run a YouTube channel as well for the Crush the Street, and I interview a lot of people right now on blockchain and cryptocurrency. But you can also sign up at crushthestreet.com for my free newsletter, and we do write and publish many things regarding Bitcoin, and we're actually going to be releasing a new blockchain report, and you'll be able to get that if you sign up at crushthestreet.com or at the homepage, where we have a link to our highest conviction reports. And as far as favorite cryptocurrencies right now, I'm a big believer, at least right now, in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin. Bitcoin is just proving itself to continue to be resilient through all the scaling, all the problems, and all the battling that we see right now going on in the space. It continues to be resilient. And the fact that there's only 21 million Bitcoins outstanding, or that will ever be outstanding, just the slightest move into the cryptocurrency will send it skyrocketing. And I know we're trading at all-time highs. Last I checked, it was over $3,300 a Bitcoin. But people have been saying that Bitcoin has been in a bubble since the beginning. I actually have a quick story. Going back to February 2011, my friend took me up in his Cirrus SR-22, his airplane, a $500,000 jet. He took me and my friend up. He flew us around for 6 hours. It was just a joyride. And we wanted to pay him back for gas. It was $500. We were just going to pay him back, split it down the middle. But he didn't want to take it. He didn't want to take our cash at the time. And the friend of mine actually said, hey, I got this Bitcoin. I've been mining and I'm into it. And I knew nothing about it. He said, let me give you 500 Bitcoins, because at the time, Bitcoin, in February 2011, Bitcoin was 1-to-1. Today, and he actually took it. And today, those 500 Bitcoins are worth $1.5 million. So literally, the gas it took to fly us around for a few hours in 2011 would pay for 3 of those jets that we flew around in. And that's what's so crazy about the movements in Bitcoin. Nobody would have thought Bitcoin would go to over $3,000. Even when it was $100, no one thought it would go to $1,000, and then no one thought it would go higher than that. But really, it's the slightest move that we see going into these cryptocurrencies, and specifically Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is proving itself. And that's the difference between it and so many of the other ones that are coming up behind it. It's the strongest one. It's very resilient. And really what we have now, we don't even have institutional money entering the space yet. We're at $100 billion total market cap for cryptocurrencies. Right now, it's a little bit higher since we've seen a move with Bitcoin and some of the other ones. But if we see institutional money start to enter the space, we're going to see the market cap go to at least $1 trillion. That's a 10x higher than we are now. And we're likely to see it go to $1 to $5 trillion. And that's $5 trillion would be 50 times the market cap that we have right now. So we're still very early in this space. And, even if you're not going to speculate and buy the cryptocurrencies, you definitely want to learn about them, because they're certainly going to be part of the future.
Well, Kenneth, are there any other questions that I should have asked you that I haven't before we let you go, talking about this topic of fiat banking, the stock markets, gold and silver, the money flows, and where cryptocurrencies are headed into the future?
I think we exhausted the issue, Dunnigan. I thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate the time.
And if people want to follow more of your work, it sounds like they go to crushthestreet.com, and there they can find various reports and writings that you have offered, and take in more of your work and learn more about this important topic. So, Kenneth Ameduri, Chief Editor of Crush the Street, thanks for joining us on Reluctant Preppers for the first time.
Thanks so much, sir. Appreciate it.